This is United Network News with Sunny Galt, Calen Giff, Kimberly Gogan, and our field messengers from around the world. Here's today's real news.
We all try our best to recycle and do the right thing for the environment. But have you ever wondered what happens to your glass jars and cans after they hit the recycling bin? Do they get a second life as new bottles and tins, or do they end up in a landfill instead? Recycling can be tricky, and while many materials make it to proper facilities, there's always that question of where each item might go.
Glass recycling plays a key role in creating a sustainable loop. When glass is properly recycled, it can be turned into new bottles and jars, reducing the need for raw materials. However, whether this happens depends largely on your state or community's recycling system. In the United States, challenges arise because most recycling programs rely on single-stream systems. In these systems, glass is mixed with plastics, cardboard, and other materials, which can lead to contamination and make proper recycling more difficult. As a result, only 40% of glass actually gets recycled, according to the Glass Packaging Institute. The rest often ends up discarded. To change this, we need improvements in how glass is collected, more education for consumers about proper recycling practices, better regional processing centers, and innovative solutions for transporting materials efficiently.
Is recycling landfill? The answer is yes. Some of it ends up in the landfill. There's what we call a contamination rate all across the country. 9% to 15% of everything we pick up at the curb is going to end up back in the landfill because it's contaminant. Back when I grew up in the family business, we had one bin that was for newspaper, all papers. We had one bin that was for plastic. We had one bin that was for glass. And we would do what's called source separation. Well, as the industry continues to evolve, they brought on this thing called single stream recycling. Everything goes in one bin. Do you know the two reasons why we did that? Number one thing is safety. Safety is a huge part of our whole industry. Safety because we want to get that employee or that crew off the street. And then the second reason is we want it convenient for the consumer.
Yeah.
We want to make it consumer friendly. So instead of separating it in your little bin as you used to, we want to make sure it's all in one bin and you can recycle as much as you want.
If your community sorts glass separately in dual stream recycling, there's a good chance glass gets recycled into new products. Keeping glass clean and uncontaminated makes it much more valuable for manufacturers. For example, glass recycling in Europe is a big success story. Many countries collect bottles and jars in separate containers and even use deposit return schemes where you get money back for returning empty bottles. A report by the European Action Group, Close the Glass Loop, shows impressive results. 93% of materials at recycling facilities in 2022 were recycled, and 85% became new bottles and jars. Most of this recycled glass came from municipal waste, proving how important local collection systems are for making recycling work. Upcycling glass jars is another way to cut down on waste and get creative. Instead of throwing them away, why not give them a second life as something useful or decorative?
Glass jars are great to recycle, but sometimes they're pretty handy to keep. First, you want to get rid of any of that excess food left in there. Now, these are going to take a soak to get rid of those labels and sticky stuff. You'll need a little bit of dish soap and a few glugs of white vinegar. Now, you want super hot water straight from the tap or boil a pot of water. Let everything soak until those labels come off easy and clean, about 20 minutes. And that label should peel right off. Any remaining residue should be easily scrubbed away. It is coming off so easily. If you are reusing glass jars for food, just make sure to thoroughly clean it or even sanitize it in a dishwasher cycle. Get crafty and turn a jar into a candle. Upcycled jars make great gifts. Tie a bow on it and they'll love it. If you're a plant person, propagate and share a cutting with a friend. It's so cute. Even use those jars to refill bulk goods at your favorite sustainable store.
Steel and aluminum cans are also highly recyclable materials. Steel cans, used for packaging everything from soup to pet food, are one of the oldest types of food packaging and super easy to recycle. You don't need to remove paper labels since they're handled during the recycling process, but it's helpful to rinse the cans to avoid smells or pests. Just remove the lid, tuck it inside the can, and pinch the top closed to keep animals safe. Recycling steel is important because it can be reused endlessly without losing quality. And most new steel is made from recycled material, with about 1/3 coming from virgin material, according to the recycling database Earth 911. Aluminum cans, like those for soda and beer, are also highly valued in recycling as they too can be reused endlessly without losing quality. Studies show about 75% of all aluminum ever made is still in use today, and recycling aluminum can save about 90% of the energy used in extracting aluminum. Also, there are many recycling programs out there where you can start turning those aluminum cans into cash. As for steel cans, scrap metal recyclers buy them, but they pay by the ton. Unless you have a lot, the gas costs may outweigh what you earn.
If you're wondering what we do with all those cans, this is what we do with them. Last box.
How many pounds? 204 sheets. And the name for the check today? Buzz. Buzz? Yes.
More and more people are focusing on sustainability, and it's changing the way we think about products and packaging. Glass and aluminum are becoming super popular because they can be recycled indefinitely. And with new recycling tech and energy-saving methods on the rise, the future for these materials is looking promising.
UNN Field Messenger Helen shows us how to build a berry climbing frame using recycled materials and a permaculture approach. With the help of a skilled volunteer, she creates a happy home for her berry plants.
Hello beautiful beings, this is Field Messenger Helen reporting with Nature for United Network News, and we are going to look at building a frame for berries to climb up using the materials we have, which is a very permaculture way, and I'm working in the economy of care. So I have a woofer here, which is off the Willing Workers on Organic Farms website, and she is staying in my house and eating with me and living with me, and then in the mornings we're working outside together. So it's a beautiful exchange of knowledge because all the woofers come with a lot of experience and knowledge. So it's like really fun for me to share with like-hearted people. So I'll show you what we're doing. These Pittosporum had grown too tall and were shading my orchard. So I cut the tops off them and laid them down here. And then the leaves have just fallen off until we've pulled them out and they're just, bare stems. And then we could select the longer stems to build a frame. Here's the berries that need a frame. They're just heaped up on these stakes, which really won't work because they have tremendously long tendrils reaching out. So these stakes are about 2.5 meters long, and they will be the verticals in our frame. And then we've got these thinner cross members to make up the grid. So Here's our pittosporum frame coming together. We've got some star droppers in to give the structural strength in the wind, and then we've rested our pittosporum frame onto the espalier wires there, and next thing we're going to stand it up and then continue to put the cross members and make a decent structure that we can tie all these long lengths on of the berry plant. Okay, just weaving the sticks in and out to increase its own structural strength, and we're having a bit of fun with it too. And luckily these pittosporums have still kept some of their flexibility. Here's the finished frame ready to put up the berries. The young berries are happy now up on their frame, and the thornless loganberry next to it. Very exciting. This has been so much fun to create, and so may all of you find and enjoy creative projects where you live in the world. Bye!
Something new is happening at parties, bars, and college hangouts. Gen Z just isn't drinking as much. Unlike millennials, Gen X, or boomers, this generation is saying no thanks to alcohol more often than ever. Gen Z is redefining what socializing looks like. The whole let's grab drinks culture, it's shifting, and the numbers are proving it.
According to a 2023 Gallup survey, way more young adults under 35 are skipping alcohol, 10% more than just 2 decades ago. Statista reports only 18 to 20% of Americans ages 21 to 28 are regular drinkers now, compared to around 30% of millennials when they were the same age. In other words, booze just isn't as big of a deal for Gen Z.
This is a mocktail, and it's becoming more common to see it on bar menus. Which begs the question, is Gen Z emerging as a sober generation? When we say sober, we're talking about alcohol consumption. Gen Z still drinks, but their alcohol consumption has gone way down compared to the millennials that came before them. A whole 20% less. And that's for a few reasons. For one, 86% of Gen Zers say that their reason for abstaining for cutting back comes down to looking out for not only their physical health, but their mental health as well. According to World Finance, stress and anxiety on how they're perceived on social media when under the influence weighs heavily on Gen Zers too. Reason number 2, saving money. And reason number 3, many prefer the taste to the effects. Non-alcoholic drinks hit $11 billion in sales last year, with more companies focusing on natural botanicals to elevate taste and status. And it's not just drink companies. Bars are getting in on it too, including Acate in New York City, an intimate sober bar that prides itself on drinks made from natural ingredients. One of those drinks is the Healer, which is a blue matcha lavender lemonade topped with a rosemary garnish, which is actually pretty good.
Businesses are making big moves to keep up with this trend. In addition to mocktails, more bars and restaurants are offering non-alcohol craft beers and premium non-alcoholic drinks that go way beyond basic soda and lime. At the same time, brands are shifting their marketing to match Gen Z's priorities. Instead of pushing the typical work hard, party harder message, they're leaning into wellness and moderation. Functional beverages like CBD drinks, kombucha, and adaptogenic elixirs, things that don't give you hangovers, are also exploding in popularity, giving Gen Z social-friendly alternatives that fit their lifestyle.
Gen Z is drinking a lot less alcohol compared to previous generations. Why is that? Well, as it turns out, it's not just Gen Z, but many people are now replacing alcohol with non-alcoholic drinks, and sales have doubled since 2020. A study by McKinsey found that health concerns are the chief motivator, but it's not like Gen Z are complete saints or boring. Many are replacing alcohol with cigarettes, weed, and especially disposable vapes. It's actually getting so bad in the UK where there's now going to be a ban altogether because kids as young as 12 are getting addicted, and one even ended up in a coma. And for all the shit that Gen Z gets, these habits are leading to less crime. Since 2006, the amount of alcohol-induced car accidents have drastically reduced. And that could be a lot of things, right? It could also be the invention of Uber. But when you consider that 40% of violent criminals were under the influence when committing crimes, it's not a surprise that Gen Z are committing fewer violent crimes.
Gen Z may be leading the way, but in the U.S., there's a much larger push to cut back on alcohol. In January 2025, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy came out with a big warning about alcohol and its link to cancer, pointing out even just one drink a day can raise the risk for cancers like those of the mouth, liver, and breast. He's pushing for alcohol to come with warning labels, like tobacco products, to make people more aware of the risks. This comes at a time when more people are joining in on Dry January, taking a month off from drinking to reset. It's all part of a growing movement encouraging healthier habits and helping folks think twice about how alcohol impacts their long-term health. It even has a name. It's called being sober curious.
Sober curious means that you're mindful about drinking and about how much alcohol you consume.
So it's not completely abstaining from alcohol.
Exactly.
A new survey found 42% of Americans describe themselves as sober curious, up from 33% in 2022. And notably, the biggest group of Americans cutting back is Gen Z.
I think young people might just be a little bit more wellness conscious, a little bit more health conscious. There's a lot bigger conversation going on about mental health and what impacts your mental health.
Recent studies reveal that even low levels of regular drinking can have negative long-term health impacts. Earlier this month, the Surgeon General issued a new advisory warning those who drink face a higher risk of cancer.
Everyone wants a nice adult beverage, something that tastes good, something that's interesting, something that's exciting, but they just don't want the effect of alcohol.
Gen Z isn't totally ditching alcohol, but they're definitely changing how they think about drinking. They're embracing moderation and making more mindful choices, which fits with the growing trend of living healthier, more intentional lives. They're showing us you can have a blast, connect with friends, and enjoy life without alcohol being the center of it all.
Today we're learning how to make lasagna with meat and vegetables using a creamy bechamel sauce instead of the usual tomato sauce. UNN Field Messenger Amy makes it easy for us to follow along.
Hi, Field Messenger Amy reporting for UNN from Parsippany, New Jersey. And I have my pearls on, so we're going to cook it up in the kitchen today. And today we're making what I call a poor man's lasagna. I know I've heard that term used for other. So today, with a homemade bechamel sauce, I'm going to use that to make a very hearty lasagna with sausage and mushrooms. And I'm going to put some peas in there for a vegetable. So let's go cook up some poor man's lasagna. So these are the ingredients we're going to use. I have some fresh bechamel sauce that I made, which is basically butter, flour, salt, and a lot of milk. I'm going to put some peas in here to make it kind of nutritious. We have Parmesan cheese, some parsley, mushrooms, some sausage meat. We are going to use the mozzarella cheese, but with the bechamel, we don't need to use the tomato sauce or the ricotta, so we save a lot of money. And some olive oil. And I have some fresh-made sheets of pasta that I bought. There's the sausage meat. I have some, put a little bit of water in there. I don't want it to burn. And when the water evaporates, it should be done. I'm going to break that up. And then here are the mushrooms. I have a lot of parsley, about a tablespoon or two of oregano, and some oil and some water. So I'm going to cook all these up, and then I'm going to mix them all together. And now I'm going to add the cooked sausage meat and the cooked peas. I have some Parmesan cheese. I am going to add this to the meat and pea dish. And the first thing we're going to do is pour some of the bechamel into the bottom. So our first layer, I have these sheets. This pan will take 2 sheets for each layer. Put our meat on top of that. You can see the cheese is already starting to melt. I don't use fresh mozzarella on here because it doesn't stretch as well. I'm going to spread it evenly over the sheets of pasta. This is 2 pounds. I diced up the mozzarella we need this for 3 layers. So there's going to be some on each layer, and then we put a layer on the top when we're done. And then we're going to add some more of our bechamel. And then we're going to do this for the next layer as well. And then the top layer, we're just going to put some mozzarella. So there you go. You know what? This weighs a ton. I think I'm going to call this hearty lasagna. So on top, we did a layer of the bechamel. So make sure you only use 1/3 of what we made on each layer. So we put a layer of bechamel on top and then the rest of the mozzarella. So since there's no egg in here, we can cook this for only 30 minutes. And the fresh noodles, or if you use the box noodles, the dry ones, you cooked them before you made this. So everything is really pretty much cooked that we put in here. So you just need to melt the cheese. So it's a quick dish. So let's get this in the oven. If you want it more brown, you can put it in the broiler for a couple of minutes. But after 30 minutes, our hearty lasagna is done. But now let's taste this and see how we did. Let's try a bite. Now that was delicious. Bon appetit.
There was a time when kids spent their days running around outside, climbing and inventing games, all without adults hovering nearby. It was a childhood full of freedom and excitement, where kids learned to take risks and solve problems on their own. But is this kind of play still a part of children's lives today?
Outdoor play has been on the decline for decades, with each generation spending less time outside than the one before. Studies show from 1975 to 2015 in the UK, kids' outdoor playtime shrank by 29%, while screen time increased by 22%. In the United States, daily outdoor play for kids dropped from 16% in 1997 to just 10% by 2003. This shift has changed how kids explore and experience the world. When children play freely, they naturally take risks, like climbing trees, jumping into lakes, or wandering the neighborhood with friends. This is what's known as risky play, an important part of their development, helping them challenge themselves, build confidence, and learn to assess danger. It also boosts their physical skills like balance, coordination, and body awareness. Most of all, kids love it. Through unstructured, adventurous play, they gain invaluable life lessons.
Risky play is really important because children need to be able to actually manage the risks themselves. They need to be able to observe a situation and make judgments about it. And so if children don't have the opportunities to practice using those decision-making skills, if they actually haven't developed the neural pathways that allow the connection for decision-making to occur, then they can't actually understand when a risky situation needs to be responded to in different ways. So children are really good at actually assessing risk if they're given opportunities to practice being risk takers. And so that's why risky play is really, really important.
In the Netherlands, people are realizing how important risky play is for kids' development. There's a growing push to bring back adventurous playgrounds as concerns rise about kids spending too much time indoors and health issues like childhood diabetes. Many are calling for playgrounds with classic toys like merry-go-rounds or spaces where kids can climb, build, and explore, even play with sticks or start small fires. This trend isn't limited to the Netherlands. Countries like Australia, Canada, and Sweden are making similar changes to playgrounds, according to the U.S. nonprofit National Public Radio. Research from the Diabetes Fonds in the Netherlands, a group focused on scientific studies related to diabetes, shows kids now spend twice as much time indoors since the pandemic, harming their motor skills and making activities like catching a ball harder. Advocates believe a little risk is worth it to help kids stay active and break away from screens. The idea isn't about encouraging injuries, but letting kids explore, take risks, and develop important life skills.
Risk is a fundamental part of play. It's not about putting children in dangerous situations. It's about saying that children need to test their own boundaries and their limits. So, on a practical sense, there's a difference between a risk and a hazard. A hazard is something that the child can't see for themselves that's in their environment that could, cause serious injury. So, for example, a hazard when you're playing outside might be a big hole in the ground that's sort of covered up and you can't see that it's there. So if you ran, your foot might drop in and it'd be likely that you'll break your leg. Whereas a risk might be that there is a large sort of hole in the yard or something like that, but a child can see it and they can test how deep it is and maybe walk on its uneven surface. So if we take away all the risk in play, we're taking away the opportunity for children to learn how to do things for themselves. And that's so fundamental. There will come a time where they need to know the limits of their bodies, where they need to know how to socially or emotionally stop or say no. They need those skills for themselves.
It's so easy to want to step in and fix things for our kids when we see them struggling or getting frustrated, but doing so can actually hold them back. As parents, it's important to encourage independence in our children. Experts say letting them try things on their own helps them build problem-solving skills and resilience. Mistakes and failures are part of the learning process, and giving them space to figure things out boosts their confidence and independence. One way to support this is by asking open-ended questions that encourage critical thinking. For example, instead of saying, "That's too high," try asking, "Do you feel safe?" or "What's your next step?" This helps kids assess their actions while staying in control and learning to make decisions.
There's some really easy things that parents and caregivers can do to support play and bring back play to their children's lives based on the 3 key ingredients for children's outdoor play. Number 1, allowing the time to play. Now, this can mean actually scheduling it into the calendar, making sure that it doesn't get lost in the busyness of everyday life and rushing around. Number 2, providing spaces for play and making sure that they're interesting. One of the easiest ways to do this is to bring in loose parts, things like sticks and stones and leaves and tarps and crates, things that kids can move around. This really allows them to let their imagination shape the play and increases the quality of the play. Number 3, giving them the freedom to play the way that they want to play, including taking risks. So one of the things you can think about is next time you're tempted to intervene, you can just count to 17. Let the situation play itself out. Figure out at the end of that time if it's still important that you actually get involved. So I would encourage you, parents and caregivers, to set one simple goal for what you want to do to help support your child's play. It doesn't have to be complicated or difficult. It really just needs to be manageable for you. I promise you, you won't regret it.
Bringing back risky play, it's about giving kids the chance to grow, learn, and have fun. It helps them build confidence, stay active, and develop important life skills they'll carry forever, preparing them for challenges later in life. So let's encourage our children to go outside and get a little dirty, climb some trees, build forts, and have adventures. It may seem scary at first, but it's all worth it for their overall development and well-being.
A small Romanian town known as the City of Violins is home to factories and workshops where skilled craftsmen produce violins, violas, cellos, double basses, and guitars. UNN Field Messenger Monica takes us on a tour of this incredible place.
Hi, this is Monica, Field Messenger for UNN, reporting from Romania. Did you know that the great concert halls of the world resound to the chords of instruments made in the City of Violins? That's Reghin, a city in Mureș County, Transylvania, central Romania. Right in the center of Reghin, there is a monument symbolizing a violin, which shows visitors that there is a real violin industry here, with roots going back to 1800. Music is everywhere and has the power to bring people together. It can help us express ourselves and better understand our own feelings and emotions and those of others. There are fewer and fewer trees in the forest with violins in their bellies. The trees destined to produce music, the Pinus sembra for the face of the violin and its solitary companion, the silver maple, which is used to make the back of the violin, have become rare as many have fallen victim to uncontrolled logging in the recent decades. Reghin is home to two musical instrument factories and numerous luthiers' workshops, where masters make violins, violas, cellos, double basses, and guitars. Everything that is made here is done with great care and attention to detail. There is a rumor that Bob Dylan's famous guitar bears the signature of a Romanian monk who was a luthier. Francisc Gheorghe, whose workshop I visited, is a passionate luthier since childhood. He is one of the great masters in the world, awarded in Cremona at the most important profile competition. Francisc is the first Romanian to receive such recognition. It is not easy to make a violin. It goes through no more and no less than 200 stages of development before it is capable of producing those wonderful sounds. The process of making a quality instrument can take more than 7 years, because the wood had to dry naturally for years. Just like a child during these 7 years at home, it learns, absorbs everything. It is only then that the wood begins to be worked, undergoing various transformations and necessarily having to be allowed to rest between the various constructive maneuvers. From the birth of the components, cut to size, to their assembly, then passing through the assurance of resistance with a veneer fillet that joins the resonance box. Then it is varnished with up to 15 layers of natural resins. The hardest work comes at the end, when the finer details are checked and the instrument is played, tuned and detuned. Strings can break, gags can slip, nails can come loose, but that's all part of the process. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Now it's your turn. Join our weekly meetings and become a field messenger. More information is available at our website, unitednetwork.earth. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.